Welcome to The InEVitable, a podcast by MotorTrend. Inspired by the future, designed for the now.
Hi there, and welcome to another episode of The InEVitable. This is MotorTrend's podcast, our vodcast about the future of the automobile, the future of transportation, and today, the future of a very old American car brand that is reimagining itself.
Yes, the iconic Dodge Brothers.
And so to talk to me and Ed about that, we've got the CEO of Dodge, and I love having CEOs. This is Matt McAlear, who has only been on the job for 7 months, I believe. But like, what a time to be the CEO of Dodge.
Sure.
You know,
Lots of stuff going on.
Yeah, it's crazy. It hasn't been an easy time in the automotive business, especially if you work for one of them Stellantis brands.
Yes. So we have Matt on, great guy, second generation Mopar, Chrysler, whatever you want to call it, enthusiast. His father apparently worked for the company, and I read his bio, and apparently he traveled all over the country in support of the company known as Chrysler. And now he's a super veteran of the industry and has been in automotive for, he looks really young, but it's decades.
Yeah, he looks really young. He's not.
But he's a seasoned executive. He served across a lot of the brands you know and love, from what was Chrysler Corporation, what was FCA, and what is now Stellantis.
He's actually Daimler Chrysler. He goes back that far.
Yeah, he's a super interesting dude. And we're going to talk to him all about what's going on with the Dodge lineup overall, and spend a lot of time talking about Charger Daytona, the coming six-pack, the EV, and the internal combustion.
And maybe a V8's coming back.
Right. Well,
maybe. Didn't say no.
So, but before we go there, I just want to ask you, Jonny. This is actually our second episode of the new year in the returning to this beautiful studio. And I don't think we actually asked. We had a question last week, so we didn't talk about this. But new year, new administration. How you feeling, Jonny? It's now the guy's been inaugurated. There's a lot of stuff going on, tariffs, a lot of tariff talk, a lot of mandate talk. Actually, mostly immigration talk. But
I'm feeling old, Ed. I feel old and out of it. I don't know which direction up is.
Right.
But
let's not politicize it too much.
No.
For the automotive listeners, are you generally bullish? Are you like, we're in a good spot? It's an interesting spot. Like it's all going to hell. Like what?
Here's my thing: is that what Dodge is doing, where they develop a platform that can handle an internal combustion engine and an EV platform. To me, that's a compromise. Now, can it be done well? Yes, and the one that gives me hope is what BMW is up to. Like, I've driven the i7 and the i5 and then the gas counterparts, and they're all terrific. The EVs are better. They just no shifting. They're quicker. They're more responsive. But and again, the engines in the gas ones aren't all that exciting. But it can be done well. I just worry, though, like, isn't it really a compromise at the end of the day? Like, aren't you serving two masters? And then I worry about America. China is just going to be all EV. Europe's probably going to be all EV. And
Europe's going to be all Chinese EV.
All Chinese EVs. And as an American, I just want to, lead every industry.
Yeah. But I'll tell you what, and I will look directly in the camera and say this.
Yeah.
I'm surprisingly not very concerned about China, because I think the one thing you can say about Trump is he's probably going to let China in during the next 4 years. He's going to slap so many tariffs, apparently. And aside from kowtowing to TikTok, I don't think it's really clear that he's going to, we're not going to see a bunch of Chinese anything rolling on the streets.
I didn't even mean Chinese cars. I just meant we're going to be this weird country that's worried about internal combustion when the whole rest of the industry, the best minds, are working on software-defined vehicles and EV. And also, by the way, Biden put up 100% tariffs on Chinese EVs.
Yeah.
We know how Trump thinks. If Biden did it, do the opposite. And so he might remove him, or incentivize him. Who knows with this guy?
The thing I'm most annoyed by, I would say, is the NEVI, pulling all the NEVI funding, the new electric vehicle infrastructure, all the dollars. We had those guys they were part of the documentary we did on America's Problems with EVs, which is basically everybody talks about we need more chargers. Well, this was a plan to get more chargers.
Yeah.
And if that money stops flowing, in 4 years, we're going to look down and say, hey, you remember how we wanted more infrastructure and more EV chargers, and now we don't have any?
Yeah. Well, and then, remember, now he has an office in the White House. We've got the head of the biggest EV company in the U.S., Musk, wouldn't he be saying, we want more of this? But no, because he's got a financial interest in the Tesla supercharger network.
We'll see how that goes.
So,
I think Vivek is already out. We'll see how long. We'll see how long Elon lasts.
I mean, sure. That's look, and that's the other thing.
I saw a bingo card on social media with all the cabinets' names and cross that guy.
But remember, I would say the big difference is last time he seemed to be that he was looking for quote unquote the best people, but these weren't necessarily loyalists, like General Mathis or something like that, Mattis. And this time it's just loyalists. So loyalists never really have a falling out. Who knows?
Right. So we'll say
I'm still getting through the fires, man.
Okay.
I don't even know.
All right. Fair enough.
How about you?
That's it. I'm put my head in the hole and just start just keep on trucking with the car stuff because the politics is wild. And with that, let's get Matt McAlear on and talk to him about
the future of Dodge.
Future of Dodge. Thank you so much, Matt McAlear, head of Dodge, for stopping by. Busy schedule. I'm going to set you up with a real softball question here. So there's a guy named Trump now in office. How does that shift your business, your job, make things easier, harder? Overall EV strategy, product strategy, what's going on?
And did it actually change things?
Yes.
You know what? That's a great question, and one we're getting quite a bit lately. Definitely keeps us on our toes a little bit more than the previous administration. I think, hindsight, 2020, Monday morning quarterback, you can say we were lucky, you can say we were smart. But with our EV strategy, I think one of the things that we're very happy with the change in administration is it's a multi-energy platform. We didn't commit to any one technology. So while we are launching EVs right now, we're in a few short months, second half of the year, we'll be bringing out our 2 6-pack models. So we've got something for everybody, and we can flex with what's going to happen and the changes that happen because, quite frankly, who knows where we're going, right? There's going to be changes, but
sadly, yes, that's right.
We'll see what happens.
Okay. But you're the big boss at Dodge. Doesn't that we don't know where this is going. Doesn't it also create massive headaches? And this is sort of not it's not a Trump or Biden thing. It's kind of both. It's the America. We change presidents like other countries. Like, for example, China has had the same guy for 20 years, right? And they set the goal, and everybody's clear. And she's like, okay, sweet. Now we can do long-term planning. Does it make it harder when you have to change? You have to violently change directions every 4 years.
It definitely makes it something you think about a little bit more in the product development life cycle. And the product development life cycles are so long, as you guys know, that challenges us from not locking into one technology. But it also, I think it pushes our engineering resources and our teams to stay flexible. As we've been talking a lot lately, Americans just want freedom of choice. And we're not all in on one technology. We're going to continue to change powertrains throughout the years. But we have to stay compliant. We have to improve. So while, yes, things are changing maybe at a little different rate than they were last year, we still have to develop EV technology. We need to look down the future of where we're going with hydrogen, with diesels, with ICE motors. It's not going to be one size fits all, and I think that's where we've started to lay that groundwork. So we just need to continue to push forward and bring out as many different options for consumers as we can, as quick as we can.
Okay. So I'll ask you then, just to explain. I think this is a question we're going to come back to a lot. Can you give us a summary of Dodge's product strategy, vehicle strategy?
I think to sum it up as simply as possible would say we win when we're different. When we try and build a commoditized Me Too type product in general over the history, that's not where we win. We have the great fortune of being part of a house of brands with Stellantis that we don't have to tiptoe the line. We don't have to be everything to everybody. We can be bold, audacious, think outside the box, focus on performance, kind of being crazy. We always say that it's fine if 95% of the people don't want to buy our cars. If that was the case, we'd be just like everybody else. So from that standpoint, we say, we're all in on performance, America's performance brand. That doesn't necessarily limit you to any single segment. But if we're going to go into that segment, if we decide to go into that segment, we've got to stand out. We've got to have best-in-class performance claims, and we've got to be doing things the Dodge way and just a little bit more fun.
Okay. So an example of we win when we're different would be like the previous Hellcat strategy.
Absolutely. The previous Hellcat strategy, I mean, it goes back all the way to even when the Viper first launched, right?
Okay.
I think that started putting, but that's been that way for the 110 years of the Dodge brand. Even when the Dodge brothers broke off from Ford, that's kind of cemented in the brand's history. But even with this EV we're launching today, we're saying we're not actually launching an EV. We're launching a muscle car first. It just so happens the first powertrains are coming out are EVs, and they outperform the gas engines they replace. So we're kind of taking EV to market a little bit differently. When the car in general is the same exact car between its ICE powertrains that are coming in a couple months and the EV powertrain. So it wasn't designed as an EV first. It was designed as a muscle car first with retro heritage and style inspiration. So I think, again, that just kind of sets us out. Nobody else is doing a big all-wheel drive sedan. Quite frankly, this one has more rear seat legroom than the outgoing Charger. This is a big car. Most people aren't developing big cars these days.
Right.
I just drove it, and I'm glad, because we're probably going to spend the bulk of this podcast talking about the Charger Daytona, as well as what's coming with the six-pack, as well as the other vehicles. But let's dive deep. So I did drive this is a rare moment for this podcast where I drove something that Jonny has yet to drive.
Yeah, I haven't driven it.
I had it this weekend, the Charger Daytona, the fully loaded, all singing, all dancing, the red one you guys from the press feed out in Los Angeles. And it's a big car. It is like, and here's the thing, it doesn't actually look like it's beautiful looking. Shout out to Ralph, my man, great looking car. I looked at the R-Wing up close. I looked at the Fratzonic logos in the back. It's gorgeous. It looks perfect as a two-door. It's got the long door. It's beautiful on the inside. It is heavy. I mean, it doesn't drive heavy. We'll get there. But I know from our testing director, Eric Tingwall, wrote the piece on it. It's like, wow, this thing's like 5,600 pounds or so. And the length, it's longer than a lot of a few three-row SUVs in the market. Why is it so big? Why is it so heavy?
Just some of the inherent engineering needs that come along with a multi-energy platform, developing a platform that can handle both ICE engines as well as EV. The battery packs in themselves, 100 kilowatt hours. So we do have over 300 miles range on the RT. We're talking 2 EDMs, 496 horsepower on the RT, 670 on the Scat Pack. It's big. It is definitely muscle car size proportions. We did not get smaller. We did not go pony car. We did not go nimble. We went with big. But you know what? It pushes the boundary of what people know as a muscle car. You take the last generation. We did have all-wheel drive available on the entry-level V6s. This is now standard all-wheel drive, all powertrains. This has a hidden hatch design with UV-like storage capability, 132% more cargo capacity than the outgoing model, more rear seat leg room between, in the two-door coupe than the outgoing four-door. So it is absolutely kind of bridges that gap now between what people know as a muscle car versus a daily driver. And this can be your daily driver, which is exciting. Opens us up to a whole new market. But you're right, it's a big car, it's different, and I said that's how we win when we're different in the marketplace, and we don't try and offer something that you can go down the street and
Because I'm trying to think, the only other two-door that's that heavy that jumps to mind is like the Rolls-Royce Spectre, which I think is like kind of like 6,000 pounds, that neighborhood. Yeah. But that's just 5,600 pound two-door is like kind of crazy.
And we estimate I think, or actually, Tingwall might have asked your engineers that the battery pack is about 1,500 pounds. So you're talking 4,200 or so for the
structure.
3,200. Am I doing the math right?
You're doing it wrong.
4,200. Yeah, 4,200 or so for without the pack. I mean, when I'm jumping ahead now. When the six pack comes, that's going to be considerably lighter.
Yeah. And the six-pack will actually be the entry level to the brand. So as you step up for performance, you'll step up to the EVs. So the six-packs coming will be 420 and 550 horsepower, which will be significant. They're going to be fun.
And if I remember correctly, and I can check my math later, but I think a Challenger Hellcat was about 4,500 pounds, 4,600 pounds. So it's if you forget about the EV part, but if the gas one comes in, it might be about the same as the outgoing one.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I also,
a little
I'm reading
heavier.
my notes here, and I gave them I put the car on a 300-pound diet. Apparently, it's closer to 5,900 pounds.
Oh.
And you didn't correct me.
I was to say 5,800 and change is what I remember, but you had your notes in front of you.
Yes.
They're his notes.
Right or wrong.
For everyone listening, it's Ed's notes.
So then, you said the car was designed first as a muscle car, but is there something inherent in having the dual design for the dual platforms that needed to make this thing? I mean, if the base chassis is, and without a battery is going to be 4,200 or so pounds, like that seems.
Well, and it's a shared platform, not just for the Dodge muscle cars, but it's a Stellantis large platform that's shared and other platforms.
STLA large.
So this is like, for instance, the Maserati, the Gran Turismo, Gran Cabrio.
Well, the Wagoneer S for one is a new one that's shared off of this
think
platform.
SUVs.
Oh,
Yes.
it's not the because I just know Maserati has I think I remember everything, but it's they can do both powertrains. They have ICE and electric.
So we have the Stella Medium, Stella Large, Stella Frame. So this is part of the new STLA platform sharing that we're doing across the globe.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, I think Maserati and Jeep.
Frame is the truck,
Trucks.
Ram Charger, right? So this is our. Do you go back and at the stage when you said, "Hey, this will be on large"? Oh, maybe it should have been medium. If you had done a medium, a Stella or STLA medium, it would have been like more pony car size. Is that?
It wouldn't have the same wheelbase, the same presence. It wouldn't have been truly what we wanted to get out of the muscle car as we built the muscle, next generation. So, is there optimization of availability? Absolutely. As we work through the model years and the changes, we'll definitely work to optimize wherever we can.
Okay. All right, let's address some. Let me just before I dive into some of the criticisms. How has the reception been? Now the vehicle's been launched. They're starting to roll into obviously media hands and influencers are starting to drive them. What's been the reaction?
It's a house divided. You've got our outgoing consumer base that we've built over the last generation that, quite frankly, has been all in on ICE powertrains, all in on V8 and muscle car, and that's phenomenal. We also are talking to a whole new generation of buyers, a lot of buyers that necessarily weren't visiting our showrooms before that are starting to come in. And I just met with the dealer body at NADA in New Orleans, and a lot of them were shocked about some of the people that are coming in. So I think this starts to open us up to a new market, which is cool. And the fun thing is that we're not saying fall out of love with ICE engines. Not at all. We're launching a better muscle car, the muscle car of the future for Dodge. We're going to be multi-energy. Just so happens that we're having to launch the EV first. We're putting a phenomenal foot forward with 670 horsepower on paper. The Scat Pack completely blows away the Hellcat Red Eye wide body Challenger of yesterday. From a MSRP standpoint, $10,000 to $15,000 less. Same wide body proportions now standard all-wheel drive, 330 to 60. More technology, more safety, more cargo space, more rear legroom. We're talking to a new set of buyers, which is fun. But here in a short couple months, the ICE engines come out, and now we starting to talk to some of those buyers that have been thinking about it for a while, and it's going to take some time to grow. But we just sold down. A lot of those V8 customers, they're still on the lots. They can still go get a couple of them that are left before they're completely gone. So we're trying to be everything to everybody right now.
They're still on your site. I noticed. I was like, hey, you can click the tab and you can see the full range of what's available, which is interesting.
No, we heard a rumor a while ago that this platform, at least this Charger, not only can it take a straight six, but it actually could handle a V8. Is there any truth to that?
I wouldn't say.
Can you comment on that?
I wouldn't say that it won't handle a V8. What I'll tell you is that there's been nothing that is done to date. But if you look back at the previous generation of muscle cars and all the powertrain iterations over the years, we started out with a 3.5 and a 6.1, and then we went to a 3.6 and a 5.7 and a 6.4 and a 6.2 Hellcat, 6.2 Demon, 6.2 Red Eye, 6.2 Demon 170. We continue to innovate, and we continue to find ways to bring more to market. So there's That's
So
the
that's
beauty of this
not a
platform.
no. That's good. Okay.
That's the beauty of this platform. It can handle a
Yeah,
lot of
okay,
different.
Gotcha.
We may have had our guys because we have the car. We're like measuring and like it definitely. I mean, look, and of course,
I mean, it's a big car.
Well, yeah, Tingle's like you're an idiot. Of course, Ed, it's going to be able to fit a V8. The straight six engines, the block's going to be longer than a V8. It's
right.
is it
it's-
wide
it's
enough?
the width. Yeah. Of
But the
course.
thing is, it's a big car, so
Yeah,
it
it's
should be
wide.
able to fit. I was curious about the R wing because if you ever find yourself in the presence of this beautiful car, look at the front and then actually go to the A pillar and look towards like where the hood ornament would be, and you'll see this gap. And I'm like, I wonder whether with the downward plunge of the hood, whether you could still stuff.
It'll be shorter. So yeah, you could.
Well, that R wing actually is only on the Daytona, only on the EV models. So when the 6-pack comes out, you'll
That's
have
a
a higher hood bulge.
Because aero's not as important.
Well, because of the aero, and you have the radiator and the cooling up front and the
Right.
different.
So you need even more hood height.
And you're gonna need to put a V8 in there. So. Woo! I'm glad we're settled
Ed
here.
is just here to torment the poor PR people.
This is great.
Just so you know,
thank
Matt,
God.
he's not really here for you. He's just
No,
here
no,
to score
this is-
cheap
this-
points.
This is this is great. So you jumped way ahead.
I didn't jump any
You
ahead.
did because
we're talking 6-cylinder, and I said
We'll go back.
And my thinking on that question was the faithful. And again, it's just one of those weird things with Americans. Like you could say, hey, this is a great 6-cylinder. It makes all this power. It's more powerful than the old V8. It's like, yeah, but it's not a V8, which I'm sure is,
We've heard a little of that.
yeah, it's not news to you.
in every Instagram post on everything, totally even not related to
Yes,
Dodge.
but as I'm sure Matt knows, like Instagram commenters are not necessarily buyers. In fact, they're never buyers in my experience. They don't do anything but comment on Instagram. But okay, so that's that. I don't think I was jumping ahead. I think it was a logical question. But
No, a guy that I met that runs an Instagram channel for Durango, a Hellcat Durango, and he was listening to the Fratzonic chambered exhaust, and we were at a Cars and Coffee, and he goes, "It's incredible." And I said, "Well, you drive a Hellcat Durango. You like?" He says, "Just because I love my Hellcat Durango doesn't mean I can't love that too. I mean, no one's saying fall out of love with V8s or anything wrong with V8s. It's not a bad word. We're just talking performance right now, and we'll see where we go." But Chris always makes fun of me that I work with. I said, "You have a son and a daughter. You love them both. They're completely different, but you love them both. I mean, the fact that you love a V8 and love EV powertrains, or you love a V8 and you love inline six and what they can do, performance is performance, and I think that's what we're going after right now. But the future is going to be bright for this car."
Okay.
yeah, okay.
Well, I'm glad you brought up Fratzonic because I wanted to talk about it. I did drive the Scat Pack we had, the Scat Pack Daytona around, and I can confirm that because I drove it through a part of town where I'll just say there's a lot of Dodge customers, a lot of Hellcat, a lot of Challengers, and I pulled the light, and of course I was actually trying to find the Fratzonic sound, and I hear out of my ear, "Hey, is that new 25?" And I'm like, "Yes, this is the new 25." And it's like, and it's an EV, and the dude like lost his mind. He's like, "What?" And that's unfortunately I couldn't find the Fratzonic because I was going to start revving it. The car is incredibly quiet. It is so quiet when you drive. You're like, wow, this is amazing. I know EVs are all really quiet. This thing is like you call the Lightning an isolation chamber. Charger's super quiet. So I actually found myself wanting to find this noise. I did it, and it's actually I like it cruising. My team thinks I'm nuts. Like, it's not. And then I parked it in the driver the next day, and I was like revving it. I'm like, okay, this is a little. It's super loud when you switch between the drive modes, between drag, track, and then sport.
Yeah, it's like 126 decibels.
Yeah,
or
from a
something?
decibel level, just as loud as a Hellcat.
That's insane. Yeah,
Yeah, it's loud. It's got a very interesting sort of metallic, artificial like roar to it. The question I'm trying to get to is, if for people who don't like it, are you going to be able to provide updates? Is there like an over-the-air update to the sound in the works? Is there any kind of customization available?
Nothing that we've announced right now, but everyone asks that. They're like, I want a library of app or choices that I can make, that I want to make it sound like any of these heritage-inspired cars. Or, quite frankly, the first person that jailbreaks it and is sitting out in the parking lot and has turned it into a loudspeaker or a custom PA or something. These things are going to happen. That's what's the beauty of the aftermarket.
It's funny you said that. Specifically not the jailbreak, but the your heritage.
Yeah.
Because Hyundai made some people kind of happy with the Ioniq 5N, where it had like an engine noise, And
Shifts.
I drove it. And I'm like, this sounds dorky, and everyone's like, well, yeah, it's a Kia, whatever, it's a Hyundai Elantra N, and I'm like, of all the noises, engine noises in the world, and they go, well, that's their heritage. Wait till Porsche's going to uncork a 917, and I'm like, okay, maybe, but yeah, like you could have done Hellcat, you could have Viper at 5,000 RPM, all these. Go back to the 60s and 70s. You got Magnum engines and all that stuff.
I think that's where the fun begins. Is
Okay.
where can you take it, right?
Right.
But if we'd come out and we had just cloned the red eye sound,
Then
that would have
it's
been
just
all in
too fake.
Yeah, too fake, right? This is it's unique. It's something new. It's something different. The two things for me: one, the first time you hear it, it puts a smile on your face, which is what these cars are supposed to do. But two, you have that adjustability for that connection when you're driving, because there's times when you want to get on it, you want to have some fun. If it's whisper quiet, you're missing that emotion or that connection between your brain and the foot, the visceral connection with the car and the feedback that the car is giving you. This helps in that sense. But there's other times when you're on a long trip, you want to take a phone call, you want to turn it down. It's great. Turn it off, or if you're getting up early to go to work or the gym, you don't have to wake up the neighbors, because it still will. You turn that on the garage and it'll.
126 decibels is like the shuttle launching or something. It's a big noise. Yes.
So why? But why hide the button? Why it's about 2 menus in. Is there normally you just like hit a button, turn things, make things the go loud button.
Yeah, so there's a go loud button, the power shop button.
Yep.
That'll go instant all in, and then the custom set button in the middle of the steering wheel on the left side. If you double click that, will immediately go to however you want it set up, and then you can cycle through the drive modes as well. So there's about 4 or 5 different ways. The off button, completely off, to your point, is 3 clicks, I think.
Yeah. A little tricky.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I want to address some of the real nerdy kind of EV criticisms about the vehicle, and one was the sound. 2 more. One pedal driving.
Yes.
So it doesn't have it. Like it goes below, I think it's 7 miles an hour, and then it just coasts.
Yeah.
Like there's no way to.
So there's creep mode. You can turn it
Yep.
on or off.
Yep.
And you can go to one pedal, and then we have regen adjustability through the paddles. So you can get to one pedal driving with max regen.
All the way to 0.
And it'll hold. And then we have creep mode and creep mode off. So it's a little counterintuitive to maybe some of the other vehicles in the market. So it defaults into creep mode, which is gets down and just kind of idles and rolls a little bit.
Yeah, so creep mode, if you're not familiar, just means act like you have an automatic transmission, even if you don't.
And if you turn that off, and then you'll get the one pedal icon on the dash. So we do have that.
Okay.
But
okay. So maybe that's what it is. Maybe if creep mode is not engaged, because obviously you couldn't have one pedal with creep mode.
right.
Okay.
So to turn on, you have to turn creep mode off.
Can you?
Because that was real quick. That was the big complaint I heard from like EV enthusiasts. Was like, "There's no one pedal driving. This is nuts."
Yeah.
Okay.
But can you set it to default like always on, or do you have to engage?
It latches. So if you're driving it and you keep it with creep mode off, it'll latch so it stays off for you the way you want it to.
Meaning I shut it off, turn it back on again, like for the rest of my life,
right.
never change it.
Correct.
Okay. Latching. Interesting. Okay. I did not try that, so I will go and try that. Charge speed is 2. What did you say?
Roughly 20 to 80% in 26 to 27 minutes on a level 3.
But the highest charge speed tops out like 250, 220, something like that. When we can. Basically, I think I'm trying to. The bigger question I'm trying to get to is, who do you envision the buyer of this vehicle to be? Is it their first EV? Are you trying to appeal to somebody who's never ever considered, and they have a home charger,
Yep.
and they're not going to have to deal with wanting, like a lot of people who own a lot of reasons to buy like a Tesla, or not, actually Teslas are not the fastest charging, but like some of the newer vehicles.
Like a Hyundai, the 800 volt charging
Architecture.
system, so you get 20 to 80 in like 18 minutes.
Right.
On a 350.
Yeah.
Like who ultimately who do you think you're catering to?
Well, I think this is, multifaceted. I think it's a lot of 2-car families with a truck or an SUV in the driveway that want something that's very practical, can still be a daily driver for 80, 90% of the time. It's always charged at home. You're not necessarily using that level 3 charger with the range. I mean, especially 240 plus range is on the Scat Pack at 670 and over 300 on the RT. So I think we see a lot of two-car families that want that fun car to replace the old muscle car. But then I think we start talking to a lot of individuals that have already adopted EV technology. You're not selling them on the benefits of EV. They already know it. They've had one.
Right.
But they want something now that fits their personality. Maybe they feel like they gave up a little bit in the past to get a typical 3-box flat floor, white vegan leather, 3 computer screens, and they're great cars.
They're
but
ubiquitous.
They're
They
just,
are ubiquitous. They're everywhere. And I mean that we had RJ from Rivian on, and he was saying that's the problem with EVs right now is everything's a Model Y clone, every single thing. And I'd never thought about it. I was like, you're kind of right. There's really not much else. So
I think this starts talking to a little bit different buyer than maybe we necessarily had in our showrooms last year or the year before. But if you go back and you look at the last 10 years, you combine Charger, Challenger, 2-door, 4-door sales. We sold more V6s than V8s. So that's while we all talked about performance all the time and shouted Hellcat from the rooftops, there's a lot of people that just they love the differentiation, the loud, bold colors, the fun, right? But they don't necessarily stoplight to stoplight. They don't need 700 and plus horsepower.
I mean, speak for them. Yeah. I hear that's a thing people think.
Maybe not for you.
Yeah, well, so then going with that, and maybe we could talk about something besides the Charger. Like
No.
No?
We can stay on it. We got a couple. Come on.
You know what? Listen to Ed.
Let's go, Ed.
All right, let's keep going. Okay, I hear you on that. Are you going to take? Is Charger going anywhere else outside of North America?
That was a good question.
Yes. So outside North America, we'll be in Middle East and Europe. So we go through distributors in Europe, and then we'll be in the Middle East as well.
Okay.
It's a big car for Europe.
Yeah. And will there be a Magnum version of it? Are you going to do a wagon, a sport wagon? The team, I asked our team, they're like, ask if there's going to be a Magnum. I mean, Tavares is gone. And that thing's got a huge hole in the back. Like, 'cause it's a lift back.
Kind of pre-designed.
Just put it. Yeah, come on. You
Get some
and
D-pillars.
I just saw BMW just doing an M5 wagon. They just showed it on the ring. This thing could be. This totally could be you bring a Magnum.
I'm not arguing that the Magnum was one heck of a car.
It was very cool. Yeah.
It's not an answer. It's pretty good.
Not a
He's
no.
well-trained.
That's 2 not a no. That's very good.
Okay,
We'll
so
take that.
perhaps.
Keep you thinking.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, but seriously, Europe. This car would fit in Europe. You think there's a buyer?
There was a buyer for the last generation cars, and there's a buyer for this generation. It's low volume, but through the distributor, we do have a very passionate, loyal fan base, customer base over there that they're looking forward to this.
It doesn't get rebadged as a Lancia?
No, that it does not.
Because I love seeing, when I was in Italy, you'd see those Chrysler 300s with the Lancia badges. It was like, yes.
Beautiful. All right. You just came back from NATA. So I asked you about what the consumers, and you said it was kind of split. How are dealers feeling about Charger Daytona?
I think the dealers in general are cautiously optimistic, and we've only had them on lots for 3 weeks now. So there's many dealers around the country that haven't even received them yet. The larger dealers that I talked to, were coming in smiling. Hey, I've already sold 2. I've already sold 4. I've already sold 6. This is great. And I said, well, who's coming to your showroom? And the same people. They've been hearing from the same people that they've been selling cars to, Chargers and Challengers for years. That same people that are on the internet, they're not excited about this car, but there's a whole other group of people that are hitting the showrooms that are coming in. And
sorry to interrupt. Is it skewing younger?
A little bit younger. They said there's definitely a new generation that are familiar with this technology, aren't opposed to this technology.
We find that a lot, and we're, speaking just for Ed and I, we're old now. We're old people. But there are, I run into them every once in a while, and they're like, wait, you would buy a car that you have to go to a gas station? Like, why would you do that? Like, what a waste of time. Yeah. I'm like, well, they're kind of fun to drive. They're like, what's slower than a Tesla? Like, why would you want something slower that's inconvenient?
Right.
I'm like, yeah, okay.
Well, I was talking to, I was in the Barrett Jackson. We were doing thrill rides for the first time with the car. And the first time that people were getting behind the wheel, emotions were just over the top excitement. I was talking to a couple guys, and an older gentleman that he goes, I have a 2013. And we were talking, I said, well, the 6-packs are coming later this year. He goes, why would I want one of those? He said, I've got a gas car at home. I want something different. And I think that's where we can kind of go. It's not necessarily replace what you have or get rid of what you have. there's room for performance in a different way.
And again, if you go back to like, what does a muscle car do besides rumble and sound loud? Like, you kind of stoplight to stoplight racing. Like, you can't beat an EV. It's unbeatable.
Yeah.
It's like gears are slow. Having to like rev to build power is slow compared to an EV. It just is, And that's why everyone hates them. But when Teslas show up at drag strips,
Right.
They rock.
So
Absolutely.
So what does success look like for Charger EV?
I think the easy one is sales and market share, right? But beyond that, I think the biggest success would be if we were able to. And we're on the tip of the spear of trying to change the perception of what EV is. EV is still young in the industry. There's a lot of people that still, wouldn't even know where to start on putting a level 2 charger in their home. The early tech adopters, they got out. They are the ones that have adopted this technology, but it hasn't gone mainstream yet. I think this is the type of car that can get people to just go in and ask the question, to say, you know what, that resonates with me. I love the design. No one doesn't love the design. We need to get the people in that, looking for the ICE. Let me just, before I go out the door, let me see what that 670 horsepower car is like. Let me see what that 496 horsepower is, EV. Maybe I'll drive one now. If we can start to be on the tipping point of not necessarily saying everyone has to have one, but helping the industry and the country in general just start to understand the technology, accept the technology, and it's not a one-size-fits-all. It never will be. I mean, even us as a company, we want 30% EV. Now we're sub 30. But it's got to be part of the future of the mix. It's not all in, but part of the future.
What about from a conquest perspective? Like, what would make you like deliriously happy if you found that people were trading in
The Rolls-Royce
this
Spectre.
vehicle for this one? Is there a specific vehicle you're like, man, it would be great if we guys got everybody to turn in there?
That's a great question. I think the biggest thing we look at more is just if we can conquest more than the defection. And we started to see it already. One of the stats we were looking at the other day was, the Hornet's attracting 30% more conquest than the Durango. A different consumer base is coming to the showroom. I think we owe it to our dealer body to start talking to more people. We've shrunk our market share too much over the last year. We need to get that back, and it doesn't come in, from just the customers we used to talk to. We got to start talking to more people. So I think just in general, any EV trade-in, I think, is just like, wow, they designed an EV for me. I wasn't, as you said, the ubiquitous choices I had before.
Right.
This is something that fits me.
Right. Can we move on to
Nope. There's a couple more. Okay, so just a couple more. Who made the call that you can't do a burnout in the Scat Pack? Is that just for Banshee?
I think it's Sir Isaac Newton in physics.
Oh, come on! It's coming for
So it was absolutely not a decision that was made not to do it.
line lock. EV? Come on.
The challenge, 100% transparent. When you line lock, you have two DMs. You go from 670 horsepower and you turn off that front EDM. You're talking 335 horsepower now.
EDM, electric drive module.
Electric drive module. So you've got or motor. You've got 335 horsepower, half of your 670. Got the front tires locked. You've got a 5,800 pound plus car. You got 325 performance tires in the
not
rear.
a great burnout. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's so you can get it going. We do
Well-
have the donut and drift mode where you can turn off the front EDM and you can get the thing smoking and sliding. And we were doing it in our thrill rides, but physics got in the way of a standing line lock burnout. But when we bring out the SRT, 800 volt system with the E-Rupt transmission, we'll be able to do a standing line lock.
Okay.
Oh no. Okay. Now, what have you announced the specs on that? The power
No,
specs?
the only thing that we announced was the 800 volt and the 2-speed E-Rupt
Okay.
transmission. So the same thing that we announced at Speed Week a couple years ago.
Okay. And the next thing I was going to say was, well, your problem is you don't make enough power because, like, for instance, Lucid. I always say this, like, the new what is it? The Z06 Corvette, 670 horsepower for a naturally aspirated V8, most powerful V8 ever from a factory, and the Lucid Sapphire has 3 670 horsepower motors, 3. So and they're tiny. So it sounds like you have a more powerful.
SRTs are always more powerful.
There you go. Okay, done. Okay.
Okay. Now we can move just to the six pack. Is it going to be too quiet? People are concerned about the noise of the six pack.
Because it's turbocharged?
Yeah.
We're absolutely working on making it fit with the size of the vehicle as best as possible.
Okay.
Will it be V8? No, it's a inline six. It won't replace a V8, but will it sound good? Absolutely.
Okay.
Too bad you're not still Daimler Chrysler. You can talk to the AMG guys who have mastered making turbo sound really, really good.
All right, now we can move on. All right, do you have anything
Okay.
else?
All right.
Well, I was going to
Well,
say.
is there? It's actually.
Oh.
Sorry. One last question.
Yeah.
You're the expert. Is there any? You have this audience that hopefully will go and test drive a Charger Daytona or the 6-pack. Any Easter egg? Any special mode? Anything they should go in? Any setting? And on one, there's lots of menus, lots of cool stuff
Yeah.
you can do, lots of customization. Is there anything they should like? Hey, go and do this. You know, as a Nintendo player, so left, right, up, down. You know, A, B, and like something will unlock something cool.
Well, I mean, the custom mode is on the steering wheel is kind of the double click, and that takes you right into your default, what you want set up as. So if you have your favorite settings. But I think the biggest thing is just go test drive it. Go listen to it. Cycle the Fratzonic. The Fratzonic, when it kicks on, is loud. Goes down into auto mode. You kind of do have to cycle through sports, kind of the sweet spot.
And define Fratzonic for people that aren't familiar
That's
with
the
it.
Fratzonic chambered exhaust. So
Right.
that's the exhaust and simulated exhaust note that connects your brain to the pedal. Which the one thing I'll say is it does get a lot of feedback online. Everyone that hears it in person says, "Wow, that's not what I heard online."
Yeah,
The frequencies don't come through the speaker, the computer. You have to
yeah,
get in here in
your
person.
phone speaker. Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
So give it a shot. Go test drive it. Turn it on. Play with it. That's what we've seen so far is the differentiator. People get behind the wheel the first time and they're like, "Holy cow, this is not what I was expecting."
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was just going to say, and you said it. You said Dodge has given up too much market share recently. So what you got? Like what? And you don't have to say product names or anything, but like what segments? Obviously Durango is a senior citizen at this point. Hornet. I haven't driven a Hornet. I drove the Alpha version of it.
Well, you brought up Hornet.
Yeah.
As attracting a different customer, but how's that launch been? How's it doing?
So it was rocky out of the gate. We had some software challenges with the vehicle that we've now gotten right with our dealer body. The last 3 months of the year, October, November, December, were the 3 best months since launch. Starting to get its footing in the market. The dealers are starting to understand how to sell the car. The good news is, you never want to have any issues with your cars, period, right?
Yeah, right, of course,
100% quality is obviously the name of the game. But if you're going to have issues, software, flash updates, much better than hardware updates.
Yeah, takes a few minutes. Yeah.
A lot of the challenges that we were noticing too were things that, as you said, the vehicle was co-designed in Europe. A lot of them were just instrumentation that was more European friendly to European drivers. They weren't necessarily things that were wrong. They were just unintuitive to the American culture, the way our cars are designed. So a lot of them were just finessing and getting the car right. We should have done it sooner. We can get those cars flashed and updated now. So the car is finding its footing, starting to grow share. We're working with our dealer bodies right now to continue to push that market. Really focus on the ICE models this year. The GLH concept. I think it's going to be an exciting year for that vehicle to finally come to reality. But it still has a bright future ahead of us. It's an all-new nameplate and an all-new segment we haven't played in before.
And what's describe that car, the GLH?
The GLH is the performance-tuned version of the GT. So we have an all-ICE model, and then we have the plug-in hybrid model. So this will be the goes like hell model off of the GT. So more details as that comes later in the year, but that one is going to.
And will that remain a hybrid or
No, that will be the
GLH
LGH is off all the ICE.
Oh, okay.
Full ICE.
Oh, interesting. Okay. That was a car. We'll say the Alpha version at least. I was like the way I like that experience that car was I loved it when it was all electric, and then the second the engine kicked on, I was kind of like, it'd be a nice pure electric car. I mean, I know it's hard to do small EVs.
That is it's a true driver's car. I mean, the powertrain and the driving characteristics were all tuned in here in North America for the Hornet. It's a blast. It's a compact utility with plenty of room in that segment. It is. I've got one at home. My sons have one. It's a blast. Get behind the wheel. It is has best in class performance characteristics in this segment. It's terrific.
It's a brutal segment. It is like the most competitive segment in the industry. So Elisa, our business editor, had asked this question: how can you keep it competitive? Can you keep it competitive without incentives, without money in the hood? Like, Is it the GLH that's going to help you get there, or but that's on the performance end? Right?
Yeah, I think part of that is now that we got the quality right, the dealers are starting to accept us. That we came off of our 3 best months, we got the days supply in check. We're starting to rebuild not only that car but our entire showroom with our partners. As they figure out how to have that conversation and they figure out how to differentiate on the showroom floor and who to offer that to, it can be successful. And it's just, we keep seeing, we had quarter growth every quarter last year, and we're going to be making a few changes with some of the pricing, the incentive structure, and some of the options to keep the momentum going this year.
Okay.
And then what about, I mean, obviously, to sell a lot of vehicles in the U.S., if it's not a pickup truck, it's an SUV. And, Americans tend to like big 3-rowy stuff. And, you have the Durango, but again, I mean, I know where that dates back to. And Stellantis has great platforms. Like I drove the Maserati Grecale, which is a Stelvio essentially, and I shocked how great that was. But man, depending on the engine, you put a Dodge badge on there, right? The performance brand, is something like that coming? Can you do a 3-row off that? The Wagoneer platform. You have all these good SUV platforms, which are modern.
Yeah.
They're not Dodge though. So give us what's going on.
Well, no, I mean, there's definitely room for opportunity. I mean, we just announced that the next generation Durango will be built in the Detroit complex. So Durango has a bright future. We just extended the 5.7 liter V8 RT. We just extended the 6.2 liter supercharged Hellcat. We still have the 3.6. So
this is for the Durango.
This is for the Durango,
but not for the next Durango. This is
not
just
for the next Durango.
Okay.
So we're working on the next gen Durango. But while we still, the Durango is one of those vehicles that it is a little bit older. But we did have in 2021 the update inside, and it's a vehicle that still stands out on the showroom floor. It still has the performance chops. The only V8 in the segment. Cross shops with vehicles a segment above it, just based on its towing capability.
Sure.
But with its size and the wheelbase, it's still doing very well for us. We had quarter-over-quarter growth, and we have to figure that out. And that was one of the topics we talked with our dealers about at NADA. There'll be some exciting growth this year on Durango.
Because real quick, the Durango Hellcat was awesome.
That still is.
I know a guy. He's got a Viper. He's got whatever McLaren, whatever he wants, he has, and that's his daily driver is a Durango Hellcat. And and I was like, oh, you're crazy. And I drove it. I'm like, oh yeah, this thing's really cool.
With the all-wheel drive, it hooks up and goes.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
So back to we started with Trump. With the new administration, any chance that the 5.7 and 6.2 get further extended?
It's something we're always looking at, and we'll. Is there an opportunity? Absolutely. We'll still have to be compliant as a company. So while V8s are no longer a bad word, and some of the compliance, we haven't seen where it's going yet under the Trump administration. The nice thing is we don't have to balance that with just Dodge. We can balance that with the entire Stellantis portfolio of products.
Sure.
So it'll just come down to a business case, right? What cars make the most sense and make the most money to keep the big engines around the longest.
But to keep them, because Stellantis had to pay a pretty hefty fine for being out of compliance, right? Would that have to continue or ramp up?
No. So with the new EVs that we're launching. So right now we're working to sell all those to offset. So now that we have the BEVs in the market, we still have 3 of the top 5 best-selling PHEVs in the country. So we still are able to
A Jeep, right?
to meet our compliance. Yeah.
Okay. Stealth. Does Stealth
That was
replace?
a great car, wasn't it?
Does that replace Durango? Stealth.
The RT twin turbo with all the steering, that was fun.
Okay.
There's probably a few of those around town.
Well trained. Okay.
PR is convulsing out there. Well, what about if we're gonna play that game? What about Viper? I mean, Viper was such a 5 generations, such a cool, distinct.
Well, that's coming back as a truck based on where that was Stealth, right? No, okay. Yes.
No, but and not only was it like a cool car, the racing, you won Le Mans with it, it was real. Stood out as something, and again, if we win when we're different, man, that's about as different as things got. I know there's love internally in the company.
Oh yeah,
but
there's a lot of us that love that car.
Yeah,
me included.
Yeah,
I think there's absolutely opportunity. Is if you look at as I said, we win when we're different. A halo car at the top end, but also a halo car at the entry level. I think there's a whole lot of getting back to the basics on just a car to be a car to go out and have fun in. And sometimes that doesn't always have to be. You look at what the power sports industries have done as of late with a lot of these different entry models. There's something to be said for there.
Like little side-by-sides taking over off-roading, yeah.
Yeah, or even the three-wheel performance. So there's opportunity at the entry level and the upper end of the market. I would love to see something. I think that we're always looking at what makes sense, but yeah, the future's going to be bright.
Okay.
All right. Well, so I was going to. The guys asked me, would you guys do a Dodge, bring a Dodge Grand Caravan back on the next gen platform for Pacifica?
Pacifica was the #1 selling minivan in the country last year. It's a great vehicle. I actually launched that vehicle, too long ago now. I don't want to admit, but it's that's the beauty of Stellantis is having brands that stand for each other. And Chrysler's 100 years old this year, so there's a lot of happening around the company. But we have Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep brand, and that right now Pacifica's doing well, and Chrysler's got a bright future.
Okay. All right. That's not.
There's a lot of minivan love at MotorTrend
Yes.
for some reason I can't figure out. But
All right. Let's move off because we're running out of time. Let's talk a little bit about you. Is there anything within the Stellantis family of brands you wish you could put some Dodge love on and take to market? Where you're like, ooh, man.
I don't think there's anything I would say that's in the current portfolio. Oh, global Stellantis. Oh, there's some. We have some great platforms. That's one of the things that we need to start doing a better job of is working together with the platforms around the globe and bringing the synergies and figuring out where they fit within the different countries. I think as I talked about the entry level and Halo, both of those. I think there's opportunities. Would love to see something, but a lot of work has to go into pulling that off.
Okay. What about from a competitive, not outside of Stellantis? I'm sure you do competitive testing. Is there any, here's a chance.
say something nice about another car.
Yeah, never happened. But anything out there you're like, man, those are pretty good. Like those.
Or put another way, when you were developing the Charger, were there other EVs that you benchmark where you're like, yeah, that one.
You must have drove the Plaid around.
Yeah, we have a whole test fleet that we're always benchmarking. What are the characteristics that we want to hone in on that makes it truly a Dodge? And we said there were 4 things when we built this car. It had to look like a Dodge, had to drive like a Dodge, had to feel like a Dodge, and sound like a Dodge. I think it's more about driving the other cars to help you understand and narrow in on exactly what that means to be a Dodge. And I think that's what we're getting much better at. As we said, we're not trying to be everything to everybody. We're trying to hone in and keep that momentum alive.
This might be a better question for engineers because that was, and the reason I say that is I was doing a development drive in the Arctic Circle with Mercedes with an electric G-Wagon, and I always ask that question: what'd you benchmark? Because it's fascinating, And they were like, "Oh, we everything's terrible, everything's horrible, except for we had a Rivian. That really impressed us. Like that's a really neat truck." And so was there any wow, we really
Well, a lot of times we'll go out and we'll benchmark, multiple characteristics from multiple platforms. We'll say, we want the braking of this, acceleration of this, the storage capability of this.
Gotcha.
So it's we look at best in class. So a lot of times when we're developing that, you're doing this 4 or 5 years out. It's always hard to know what's going to be best in class when you launch. But we kind of set down. We want best in class performance. We want best in class legroom, cargo room, and especially when we're looking at the sedan segment and the full-size sedan segment. As we always said, we were never trying to be a me too with the Camaros and the Mustangs of the past. Right. We were always, we owned what we were, bigger, straight line performance, and we went all in on this next generation. So it wasn't about, it was saying, okay, what has made Dodge a Dodge, and how do we double down and take it a step further?
And there was a wonderful, I don't know, honesty, is that the word? Like we did with the final edition Challenger. We had the shaker hood one, me and Christian Seabaugh, and we did that versus the Mustang Dark Horse or something. And it was one of those funny reviews where it's like, well, technically the Mustang, it definitely, is quicker around the track, but man, I really liked driving the Challenger. And technically, but we always came back with this is the one we'd buy, even though there wasn't a performance metric, where it was superior, but it was just it was what it was in a great way.
And at the end of the day, it put a smile on your face.
Yeah,
You could
a bigger smile.
You could get in and out of it. You can fit
Yeah.
your friends and family and take stuff with you.
Yeah. So interesting. Yeah, very cool.
How about China? Are you your colleagues in town? I talked to some of the Ford guys. Farley's been very vocal about it, and the GM guys also. They apparently a whole bunch of Chinese cars are running around Detroit. You getting into you doing any looking outside? The cars you spoke of, none of them play in China. But are you still looking? Are you evaluating stuff? Are you like?
Yeah, we always do benchmarking around the globe, and we've done a lot of it with our colleagues that are in China, and the engineering reports, and we've gone through the seminars on what they've learned. They're making incredible headway. They do some things very, very well, very, very smartly engineered in some of the things they do. We have a partnership with Leapmotor that we're always learning from and working from. So I tend to talk with my colleagues that are in with Leapmotor and just understanding how they operate, how they go to market different enough. So what are their efficiencies and synergies? Is there learnings that we can take away from them? And we always are. We're constantly trying to figure out how we can be more efficient.
Because what gives me a little bit of pause, and we had Jim Farley on, and you were saying this before we even had it, but he was like China, like just obsessed.
Panic button. Boop.
Yeah, and but like last year, 2024, Americans bought 1.2 million EVs.
Yeah.
My 1.3. My math isn't great, but I think China buys that many a month. And so it's like all well and good that we have, freedom of choice, as you said, but also like, aren't they just going to eat our lunch if, like, you know what I mean? Like U.S. is still a very big market,
Yeah.
but China's now 10 million cars over that. And the rest of the world's going to say, well, do we want to throw in with the biggest market or the U.S.? And by the way, we're locked out of pickup truck sales in the U.S. So really it's only a 10 million vehicle market. And I just...
Well, I think
just from a global.
No, it's absolutely something that I think is our colleagues or Stellantis colleagues in Europe are facing a lot more pressure quickly, quickly than we are here. We definitely have the worries of coming through Mexico and the distribution channels could be coming in. I think that's speaking Dodge specifically from my standpoint. It comes back to we aren't the commoditized Me Too car. We're not just an appliance for function from A to B. And that's how we continue to stand out, how we continue to build brand loyalty and truly be what we are. We're never going to compete across the board in those markets. And I think when we have in the past, that's when we've had more challenges than we could overcome. So we're going to stay true to what we're doing and truly build muscle cars and performance cars.
Ironically, though, you should really consider sending like a handful of the Daytonas to China because I think they would stop traffic. They're like because they are so different looking over there than what's over there. Sorry.
Well, also like non-3 rows are sort of weird, Like,
yeah, but just a big old Charger just rolling through Shanghai would be like.
You probably got a lot of people stopping you when you're driving it. It's amazing the attention it garners.
Oh yeah, I had it parked in my driveway on Saturday morning, and like multiple people were like, what? And then I said it's an EV, and they're like, what? I'm like, yeah.
I pulled up to the auto parts store a couple weeks ago with the Fratzonic on loud, and the guy came out, and he was standing there, and he's, what the heck's under that hood? Yeah. And I'm like, nothing.
Yeah.
he couldn't figure it out, but he didn't know what it was, but he liked it.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll wrap it up. I got one last question.
Yeah.
You're new. You're pretty new in the role. How's it been? How's it going? Like
I think I'm 7 months in.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Still alive? Still smiling?
Still alive.
Still smiling. That's the way to put it.
No, I learn a little bit more every single day, and then I learn what I don't know yet. So it's been a lot of fun.
Nothing's changed at work either. It's just been super smooth. Yeah. No big, huge management change or weird stuff like
nothing
that.
Nothing at all. I think
that is a lot if you're a dude on the job. Like Tavares out, and then a big change in political administration, right? I mean, it's a lot to juggle, right?
The great thing is Antonio Filosa is terrific. 25-year Stellantis veteran. So we've got a great team in place with Tim coming back, and just the ability that the chairman has given us to operate our business regionally now versus globally. Is taking the handcuffs off. We met with the dealers. They're super excited. The future's bright. We're able to put the changes in place that we know we need to grow market share, get back on the right path, get the throughput up, get the dealers healthy, get the communities healthy, and that's the exciting part. It's going to be a lot of fun this year.
All right. All right. Well, we
Cool.
wish you luck,
Yeah.
and thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
And well, the podcast is called The InEVitable. So the last question actually is: in your mind, are EVs still inevitable?
Absolutely.
Okay.
All right.
Maybe not to the same market share of volume they were a year ago, but they're definitely part of the future, and they're here.
Cool.
All right.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.